on telephone etiquette. I will lead you through the entire course wherein you would learn how to do and what not to do to be perfect in your telephone etiquette. The first rule of telephone etiquette is make sure or you have to be aware of the fact that the person who is calling you is not able to see you. That is the first hindrance which takes place when we are communicating on telephone because there are a lot of assumptions that are involved in this. We assume that the person is aware of what is happening on our end, which is not true. Always make sure that you start your phone with a wonderful greeting. The tone has to be obviously very cheerful. Open the conversation saying good morning, good afternoon, or good evening based on the day and the timing of the day. Remember that your message is more communicated through the intonation or the voice that you are using. Begin the phone call with an appropriate greeting, which has to go with the time of the day. Do not eat or chew while you are talking on the telephone, which is a real important thing. Identify who the caller is. If in that case the name sounds confusing, make sure you repeat the name because that point of information is very important throughout the conversation. It would also be needed in the next phase of conversation. So make sure that you have the caller's name because many a times you will have to repeat that also. Be very polite when you are on the telephone because the person, as I told you, is not able to see you. When on call, identify yourself as the recipient. You should generally say, "This is Mary" or "This is Tina. May I speak to Richie, please?" Remember to be very sensitive in your tone. Always introduce before getting into any conversation. You have to tell where are you talking from. This is Seema from Bajaj Finance Limited. That is where the person knows that you are talking to a person who is responsible to take up the calls or transfer the calls or a person who is handling a particular department. You have to be very clear, crisp, and simple in your language. Your intonation, your pronunciation play a very major role in your conversation. Implement a two-ring rule. What is a two-ring rule? The person who is calling you will not be interested in waiting for you to pick up the call. Make sure that the call is picked up right at the second ring because this might help you to retain the customer or to answer the customer in a proper way. Know your timeline and keep it short and sweet. This being a professional call, you need not to talk long. Listen to the caller. Listen to what he wants to convey. His message is very important for us. Always ask the caller before you put them on hold. Repeat the information while you are taking the message. Return the phone message within one working day. What does this mean? This means that if there is some grievance or some complaint or some order to be placed, you need to get back to the caller in one working day. Be discreet. Speak with enthusiasm. The receiver is not there to listen to your complaints. The receiver is not interested on what type of a day you are. You may be frustrated, you may be irritated, but you are not a person who should reveal your frustration and irritation to the person who is listening to you. End the conversation with a definite goodbye. You have to tell or let the person know that you are done with your conversation and would like to end it up now. Let the person who's calling you first. What does this mean? This means that you are the receiver and the caller has to hang up first. That should be appropriately used in your conversation are say, would you like to leave some message for him? I would definitely let him know as soon as possible. Maybe the person who this is not a kind of a conversation that the receiver wants to listen to. Make sure that you are polite enough to reach to the caller. Never refer to the matters as inquiry, your problem or your complaint. Instead, begin your sentences or phrases with you have to, you need to. Try starting your conversation with will you please, would you please. Avoid off as abrupt and unprofessional by all means and refrain from using expressions. Now, what are those expressions that you should not use? You should not say hang on because it's a professional call. So you need to say, may I put you on hold with all your permissions? All right. You should not say hold on. Instead, what should you say? You should say, may I say who's calling, please? Who's calling should not be used. You should say, may I know the person who's calling? May I know your name? May I know your contact details? In case you have to help out with someone, you should not say, I can't help you. You will have to speak to someone else. Make sure that you transfer the call to the particular department and communicate by saying, I need to transfer your call to XYZ department so that they can answer to your questions. Always end the call by asking the permission and asking them for some more help that they would need. After asking a caller to hold, be sure you welcome after the person has kept you after you have kept the person on hold. Using slang or shortening words during phone conversation is inappropriate or unprofessional. For instance, if you have to check on something for the customer, just say, hold on for a moment, not hold on a sec. That sounds very unprofessional. Refrain yourself from using slurs or phrases such as bye-bye, okie dokie, or alrighty. These are the words that you use while you're talking to your friends. If the person that was being called is not available, make sure you say, I'm sorry, Mr. Chawla is not available right now. May I help you with something else? Always make sure that you identify yourself. What do you mean by identify yourself is, hello, my name is Lena, I'm the office assistant, and you may tell me what the issue that you're facing. I would be happy to help you. Demonstrate sincere sympathy and understanding. Say something like, I'm sorry about this. Tell me what has happened. I would surely help you. A good phone message includes, when you get a call, you need to make sure that the entire message is noted down properly. It has some kind of an order. What is that order? Name of the person for whom the message was left. Caller's name, company, department, and number. Make sure the number is repeated so that you note down a perfect number. Date and the time. Now, what are these date and the time details? These are the time details which the person has to get back to. If the person is placing up some order, make sure the date and the time that you are letting know to the customer or to the caller are appropriate. Actions to be taken. Please call. Will call back. Urgent. Are the notes that you write for the receiver. Once the caller has put down the call, make sure you have entered all these details so that you can pass it on to the appropriate person and let them do the needful. Also make sure to use when is the best time for them to call you back. That is how you give proper importance and you end up the call in a proper way. There are some self-assessment questions that are followed after this course. Please make a note of them and rate them from 1 to 10, wherein 10 is the highest. Supposedly, the rate and the speed of the voice. If you are the caller and you would like to rate me, where would you rate me? What is the rating that you would give me? Rate and the speed of the voice. If a person on the other end is speaking very fast because he is there to answer your calls, you would not rate him 100% or you would not rate him 10. Your pauses, your intonation, your expression, and your pronunciation holds a very greater space in this area. Initial tone at call opening. That means, did the person greet you? How was the greeting? A person over the phone can say, good morning, how may I help you? This is not the way the receiver would appreciate. You have to say, good morning, how may I help you? Clarify your thought and expression. So whatever you would like to express and whatever are your thoughts, you need to be very clear in that. You have to be crisp in your diction, your overall voice characteristics, your confidence, your projection, honesty, sincerity. Everything plays a very, very vital role. Thank you to be the patient listeners. Hope you enjoyed this session with me. Hello and welcome to the English learning app called Hello English app. This app is very easy to use. Comes in a lot of languages which helps your learning very easy. Hello English app has so many topics that you can ever think of. Every topic has their own importance and their own notes followed by that. For your reference, you may go to the tab, download it, and then start using it. It's the most easiest way to learn English. Today, to give you a walkthrough to the entire app, I will take you through some lessons. Few of them are passive voice. Now, what do you mean by passive voice? Passive voice has another friend called as active voice. Now, active voice is something that describes a sentence wherein the subject performs the action. Supposedly, I threw this pen. So I am the subject and I'm performing the action of throwing this pen. So herein, I am talking the active voice, or this is the active voice. The teacher threw the pen. The pen was thrown by the teacher is the passive voice. Passive voice is nothing but the subject is acted upon by the verb. Now, when I say the teacher threw the pen, it was me who was acting on the pen. But in the passive voice, the pen was thrown by the teacher. The subject is being acted upon. The teacher corrected the mistakes. The mistakes were corrected by the teacher. Herein, the mistakes are being acted upon by the teacher. The kids forgot the whole story in few days. This is what happened. But when we talk in passive voice, the sentence becomes the whole story was forgotten by the kids in few days. Grandmother told good stories. Good stories were told by grandmother is in passive voice. Remember that we should not or we cannot change the meaning of the sentence when transferring the sentence from active voice to passive voice. The best example is we go to watch a movie. After we come back from the movie, we generally try and narrate whatever happened in the movie, but we do not act that. We, we tell to the listener that the hero danced well, the hero fought well, the hero won the fight. This is what is being narrated. This is nothing but the passive voice. Now, the next topic in the queue is relative pronoun. What is relative pronoun? Relative pronoun is used to connect a clause or a phrase to a noun. Now, for this, refer to the lessons that teach you nouns and phrases. They are very easy to understand. You just have to go to the app, click there, and learn about them. You see them used every day. What are pronouns? Pronouns are nothing but the words that we refer to instead of noun. I cannot repeatedly say, Tina is a good girl, Tina goes to school, Tina eats her lunch, Tina does her homework, Tina studies, Tina listens, Tina talks, Tina dances. It would sound very monotonous if I say this repeatedly. Instead of Tina, I can replace it by a pronoun called she. But today in this lesson, we are going to learn what are relative pronouns. What are relative pronouns are who, whom, which, whomever, whoever, whichever, etc. He is a man who trains the local basketball team. He is not just a man, but he is the man who teaches basketball. He explained the lesson why he was late. All right? My friend has a dog that barks a lot. So we're not talking about any dog, but we're talking about a particular dog that barks a lot. I bought a car which was of the best value for money. Now these two words, that and which, they take up different rules depending on the usage. Now what are the rules? The rules are which and that talk about things and animals respectively. Which is always used for things and that is used for living beings. Identify the correct option from those given below. I don't want a house which is too far from the work. Why do I use which over here? Why I did not use who or whose or whom? Because which is referring to the noun house. And we have already told you that which refers to animals or living beings, whereas that refers to things. Now, use of since and for. This is another topic which confuses a lot of speakers. We are non-native speakers of English and we have a lot of confusion in these similar words. Many a times you must have heard people using for since and since for. Now, what is the exact usage of since and for we would be learning today? Generally, we use for to tell a span of time. Now, this can be very vague period like for a weekend, for some time, for a long time, for ages, for decades. Now, what decade? What weekend? What long time? We are not referring to that specificity of the time period while talking using these terms. The most important point is that for is used to specify a particular period of time. Now, this particular period of time can be any time. We are not getting specific about it. In English, by using for, we have a formula which says for plus a period of time. Let us move to the topic that says since. Now, what do you mean by since? Since refers to a point of time. Since can be a time that lasts from a specific time period that started on and it would end on a specific time period. Now, what is this time period? We are talking about since when we say, supposedly, have you ever visited some of the monuments or some of the important places or say government offices, or there are many buildings that come up with a inscribed writing that says since 1847, since 1952. What is this since? This since is that period when it stood first and it has been standing there from then. So it is standing here for a period of 20 years. But from when would always be answered by since. The basic formula for using since is since plus a particular period of time. For is used with a period of time. Since is used to refer to a specific period of time. We use for and since with similar tenses. Here are two examples. I have been walking for 5 hours. I have been walking since 10 p.m. The sentence that uses since tells us about the time that the walking started up. But the sentence that uses for does not tell us about when did the walking start. Let us look at the next example. We have lived here for 20 years. We have lived here since 1985. So when we talk about since and for, it tells us about two different periods of time wherein since gives us a perfect information and for gives us a particular information. Now talking about tenses, which is again a killer subject for many of us. Now what is this tense? This tense is about present perfect tense. Present perfect tense is always used during interviews. We as professionals always should use present perfect tense when we are talking about our achievements, because our achievements are those part of our life wherein the action had already been completed, but it has some reference to the present. Now herein we are looking at the words that say just, still, already, yet. Now how are we using these words? Just means just sometime before. So the first example that says, I have seen Susan coming out of the cinema. I have just seen Susan. So it's just some moments before that I saw Susan walking out of the cinema. Have you just taken my pen? So it was just lying over here and has somebody taken it up? So in present perfect tense, we use just between the auxiliary verb have and the past participle. Yet is used to talk about something that is not yet finished or is yet to happen. In the first example, we see, haven't you finished your homework yet? So when do we say that? When the action is yet to be completed. Yet usually comes towards the end of the sentence. Look at the word still. Now still takes up the mid position. Still also refers to that point of the action which is not yet finished. Look at the example. I have been waiting for over an hour and the bus still hasn't come. So the bus hasn't arrived yet. I have still got all these letters sent by you. So maybe the sending of the letter, which is an action, has already completed. The reading of the letters is also an action which is already completed, but the person has stored those letters. That means the letters are still with the person. He has preserved them. Now, talking about the word already. Already is tells you or refers to that point of a time which is already happened. I have already spent my salary. So do I have money now? No, I do not. So I have already spent my money before my payment day or the day of my payment. The train has already left. Now what do I do? Already comes in the mid position. Not like yet, because yet comes in the final position, whereas still and already take up the mid position. Thank you for being my patient listener. Hope I have taken you through the entire journey in a wonderful way.